Hello and welcome to another day of Adobe Live. This is day 2 for us. I am your host, Anna Davis-Court, and we have the amazing Kevin Kwong with us today, illustrating an amazing piece. If you guys weren't here yesterday, you can check out the replay of the lava jellies, I believe we named them. We've got hashtag big jellies going down in the chat. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Michelle, Anthony Sims is back today, and we've got our lovely mod, Cody Bear. Woo! By the way, check out hashtag Beartober for Cody Bear's prompt list. And we've got Fairy saying hi, everyone. Hello. It's so good to see you guys in the chat. We always love to hear what you guys are up to and where you're coming from today. We have a really full schedule, so we're going to start the day, well, we already did, at 7:30 with designing product mockups, and then at 9 a.m. we had the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge, which actually today we are going to be reviewing the DCCs, which are the Daily Creative Challenges, on the Photoshop Discord. So if you are not a part of the Discord, go check that out and pop in your, now it's a haunted house with flashing animations for like lightning, which is so cool. Oh, I can't wait to see those. And we will be reviewing those at around 11 o'clock. And then today, drawing and painting with Kevin Kwong. Woo! And then at 11:30, Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge with Andrew. 12 p.m., we've got the mobile app design with Sarah Gear. 2 p.m., we've got the Daily Creative Challenge for XD. And then we end the day with Doodle Therapy with Alice Lee. Oh, I love Doodle Therapy, by the way. If you haven't tuned in for that, go check it out. All right, so that is our schedule. Again, we are going to be going over the Daily Creative Challenges later in this stream, so get your stuff in there. There is a challenge tab right above the chat, so you can submit your work there. And also, yeah, we are going to continue the work that we were doing yesterday. So, Kevin, do you want to give us, for people who weren't here yesterday, a quick intro on yourself, and then catch them up on what we did yesterday and what we're going to do today?
Sure, sounds good. I'm Kevin. I've been an illustrator and designer in the tech industry for the past 8 years or so. On the side, I do some volunteer work for a nonprofit called Rahim, which enables people to report accounts of police abuse. And on the side, I work on passion projects like this. So environmental landscapes with elements of magical realism. So Yay. That's what we're doing today.
Magic for everyone. I love it.
And if you're tuning in from yesterday, I couldn't help myself. I did spend about 20 more minutes or so after the stream just kind of sussing out different colors and values, doing some adjustments, and really rendering out this this guy in the kayak right here.
So. Absolutely. He's come so far. He's got black and white stripes now. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, black and white neon paddles. So I'm hoping to get through this whole painting today, and we'll see what happens.
By the way, Kevin is super fast. If you guys didn't see where we started from yesterday, of course, you came in with a very good plan. It was a full-on sketch that had like all of the details worked out, and you should definitely check out yesterday's to see how he laid this in super quickly and uses a lot of different techniques to get his edge control just the way he likes it. So definitely check that out after this one. But if you have any questions, pop them in the chat. We are happy to answer them. A few questions that we got yesterday were what tablet are you using? What brushes are you using? Things like that. Pretty standard, like how you do this kind of questions.
Yeah.
So a lot of them are Kyle brushes. A few are from your friends that you found, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're using a Wacom Cintiq.
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah. And I've used tablets in the past, but I'm just so used to this now, and I've had it for a while. I feel like I'd have to train myself again to use just like a regular tablet.
Absolutely. I always feel like it takes 2 weeks to get used to whatever new setup you have, and it's just
Yeah.
uncomfortable for those 2 weeks.
Yeah, totally. It's hard.
For sure.
But I can go ahead and go through the layer breakdown of how I sort of rendered out this guy, because it might look complicated, but it's actually pretty simple. So if we had these like flat colors right here, all I did was start with these multiply layers, and I kind of added them as I went.
For sure.
Some are for volume, some are for some just like cast shadows, harder shadows. And I find that adding it step by step allows me to have greater control, because sometimes I'll add one in and then I can play with the opacity if it feels too dark or light. And then after that, add in highlights. And I think it's really important to give hints of the seams of the clothing to show the construction. It's also a way to cheat the volume, especially when you're like zooming out and the sky is really small. I want to emphasize those things.
It's basically like contour lines, but built into the fabric.
Totally. Yeah, they're magic. Yeah. And then adding these bounce lights from the water that I'll make the environment more evident later on.
Love the bounce lights. It works so well with like the cool icebergy feel. Everything just feels like it, you know, it wants a reflection or like, you know, bouncing stuff going around.
So let's see. I want to address this guy's paddle. So I'm just gonna take a really like light round brush right here, because I want to express that cylindrical shape. And sometimes if like, we'll test this out with objects like that. Oh, I gotta alpha lock first.
Do you have like, what's the benefit of alpha lock versus something else?
So I was kind of doing this and I was like totally rendering outside of this shape.
Oh, gotcha.
Sometimes I'll just like add a clipping mask. But if I'm confident that I can get this done, I'll just alpha lock it and like paint within the shape. Like if I know, if I've done this before, I'll just kind of do that. And so I'm holding down the shift key to create a straight line between 2 points, kind of like that.
Absolutely.
And even though this cylinder shape is very small, like you might not see this roundness if you're just looking at a photograph. I think it's cool in illustration that you get to choose and pick like how you emphasize things. So
for sure.
Yeah,
it's all up to you. You get to like see what kind of things you want to highlight and what not to include. Clean it up.
And maybe even I'll do like a small highlight here just to make it pop out just a little more. And again, I'm holding the shift key. And sometimes I'll use the clipping mask to lay something down, but then I'll selectively erase, you know, parts of it and stuff. And then I'll kind of merge it back to the original source.
That's the beauty of digital, is you have so much control over those little areas instead of being like a paintbrush goes super thin.
Yeah, totally. I used to hate painting digitally, but it just makes everything so much more convenient.
Absolutely.
Everything's free and super fast.
Definitely. I think there's pros and cons to everything, in my opinion, but I love that we have the ability. Like if you have a piece in mind and you're thinking, there are going to be these areas that are much more easily rendered digitally than traditionally, then, or you could do both. I mean, for one piece, it'd be great to do like a study of each. I know plenty of fine artists who do a digital study before jumping into a big piece. So it's just advantageous to have all the options. We have them all.
Absolutely. I know, I guess there's Inktober going on right now.
Yeah, definitely. Inktober's a big one. There are a lot of Tober things, and that's why I was saying at the beginning, hashtag Beartober is the prompt list that Cody Bear put together. And
cool.
It's basically like Inktober, where, you know, you get to draw basically in whatever medium you want, but, you know, if you want to keep with the spirit of Inktober, it's basically just encouraging you to use traditional mediums if you don't usually use them. And I'm sure it could work the exact same way for digital artists, or traditional artists who don't usually do digital. Like if they're uncomfortable with it, it's just a month to get comfy, to figure out if you like it or not.
Totally. I think working in ink sometimes, I guess another way you can do it is like paint digitally and then just pledge not to erase, right?
I pledge to never erase.
I
love it.
Working in ink can really improve your efficacy because what you lay down is so permanent. You can't really alter it later. And so I find that whenever I do that, I have to think a lot harder about the strokes and the marks that I'm making. And it just makes for more thoughtful work.
For sure. I mean, thinking, what's that about?
Exactly.
Why you gotta do that?
Totally.
But yeah, I agree that it probably comes down to design much more than like exploration, where you have to have in mind what you want to put down and then be happy with whatever accidents happen. Because it really is that permanence, and it kind of has a mind of its own when you put that down. Cody Bear, by the way, is saying very true, Kevin. So
true.
And also, reflective light is fun.
Yeah.
It is so much fun.
Earlier, I wanted to create, I wanted to emphasize the form on those paddles, and obviously it's like a flat shape versus a cylinder, and so I just did a really sharp line and didn't spend too much time trying to like over render it or anything.
Yeah, don't make it more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah.
But it pops it out from the water so well, where it's just like, just a little edge, just a little shadow.
Yeah, just a little bit. I feel like one thing I learned later on as I was illustrating more, because I actually don't have a traditional illustration background. I never learned it, or took lessons for it. So there's all these tricks that I just learned from my friends or watching tutorials like this, that one of the most important things is to just make stuff read.
Just make it work.
Yeah,
Tim Gunn would say.
Yeah. And even if it's not real, even if that wouldn't happen in nature, it's so important because our goal is to have the viewer understand what's happening. And if they don't, even if maybe you understand it, they don't understand it.
Yeah. Oh, man. Sometimes you could totally miss the mark.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be like, oh, I spent a day rendering this bear in the forest, and they're like, oh, that's a horse, and you're like, no. It doesn't. No,
that's
you're
not what I meant.
Absolutely. But I think that it's super impressive that you've gotten across lava jelly feel in like, we've never seen this before. I have never seen anything like this before, and yet you still understand it because you've got all of the overall shapes of a jellyfish with the texture and rendering of that like fire and smoke and everything. So kudos for getting that to actually read and like look convincing in a world that it doesn't exist in.
Yeah, it like doesn't exist, and then yet you can kind of decide how to construct it based on your understanding of what it would be like if it existed. We know that jellyfish have this really glossy like membrane. We know that fire and smoke exist the way that it does.
And that you can see, like, if you saw a little spindle of smoke coming up, you might think, oh, that looks kind of like a jellyfish tendril or whatever they call them, tentacles.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating when you start seeing those kind of connections in your mind and train your brain to like look for them, where it's like break it down to its basic shapes.
Yeah.
And where does that exist elsewhere, and how could I combine those?
Totally. Yeah, I feel like some things just go so well. Like people already have an association with the way that smoke drags and the way these plumes like kind of form. So we can kind of take more liberties with it and still get people to understand what's happening.
Absolutely. Yeah. By the way, we've got Kendall Hotchkiss in the chat. What's up, Kendall?
Hey.
Kendall is a good friend of mine as well, and I feel like she's a regular of Behance. You know, like we have a few of those friends who are just awesome parts of this. And by the way, I'm kind of convincing Kevin to become a streamer regularly on Behance. So if you ever feel like tackling, you know, OBS and all that stuff, I mean, you've got the Cintiq, you've got the camera, you're halfway there.
Yeah, I'm so close.
But yeah, I think it would be awesome. We were talking a bit about before the stream, what this is bringing for you, and I feel like it's such a community growth kind of thing. So it would be great for any artist, especially if you're feeling a little isolated because of you know, self-isolation. So yeah, it's been a really great thing for me. I stream on here, and it brings that sense of like people around you who are like-minded, and we just talk about art stuff and have a ball. So I would highly suggest becoming a part of the fam.
Cool. Yeah, I think community building is so important, and I still feel like I haven't quite figured it out.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to get like people who really want to just hang out together and like regularly do that.
How have you sort of like created a community for yourself?
Well, starting the stream was part of it, where it was a lot of people that I've talked to casually, but we started doing it regularly, where it was like, oh, we see each other much more often, talk about things that are important to us, and then you just kind of get to know the characters. But then Kendall actually suggested starting a Discord, and that's when it took off, because having a Discord server full of your buddies and all talking on or off stream, you know, all that stuff, like you get to share pictures and videos. It just quadruples the effect of community building and feeling like you have a home online. Like I like going there instead of Twitter. Like it's so much fun.
Yeah, and it can be so valuable to have friends like critique your work or
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, it's another place for that. And also we've started like collaborations and things there. So it's just everything builds. By the way, Anthony Sims says, stream, Kevin, stream! And Kendall says, I just appear like a wild Pokemon to see streamers that are what they're up to. We see a wild Kendall out in the open. Snap a picture.
Yeah, it's definitely a new muscle that I'm trying to flex right now. It's like multitasking, offering you all value, and just like thinking and painting at the same time.
Definitely. It's a challenge, but a good challenge, I'd say.
Good challenge for sure.
I'm loving these jellyfish tops, by the way.
Oh yeah, thanks.
So juicy.
I mean, this is definitely like the benefit of doing studies beforehand, and just having an idea of like how to accomplish some of these effects. I really honestly don't know what all these, I have like a loose idea of what all these blending modes do. But often what I'll do is just wing it. like I'll just kind of
try it out. Yeah.
I'll just kind of like select all of them and then see what sticks and what makes sense to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Same here. Anthony once posted I think there's a page on like the Adobe forums that tells you what every single blend mode does.
Oh, really?
It was fascinating, but it's also like, I still just flip through them, see which one sticks.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all just part of the process. Some people really like to know exactly what's happening. And it can be advantageous, like understanding, burn and dodge tools. That was one of those things that really I was like having a hard time with, but learned to understand. Basically 50% is clear, like completely does nothing on the painting, and then if you burn or dodge, it just makes it lighter or darker, or takes that like 50% and turns it into black eventually, or white eventually, like however much you put on there.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it's weird stuff that not like, this is a big thing that I come back to all the time. Like Photoshop is such a deep program that you can do one thing 5 million ways, and so you never know what way is going to be the one that like clicks for your brain and works the best. And that is another reason to have a community, because we can share different ways of doing these things. And maybe you didn't know about clipping masks or like pixel locking or any of that kind of stuff. It's just so important to working efficiently. So,
That's so
sharing
true.
those tools is good.
Yeah, it's I think it's funny when you kind of learn the traditional rules or the roots of like certain tools, like I think burn and dodge, I only found out what that was when I was in a photo class in college. And I was like, and they were like,
Oh
actually,
my gosh.
things that you did in the process. I don't know if we have like analog photographers here, but everything connects to like something real,
Absolutely. Yeah, I did analog photography for a while, and I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So cool.
So I know that these like kind of jellyfish caps have it's like a slick kind of semi-transparent membrane, and so when I've seen stuff like that, they kind of diffuse light from the inside, and that's why I'm having the yellow, these yellow like soft brushes come through from the fire.
That is absolutely beautiful, and it reminds me of Metroids. I don't know if you've ever played that game.
Yes, exactly.
Like semi-transparent membrane.
Yeah.
By the way, that's my new band name. And Michael Tran says you're doing a wonderful job, Kevin.
Oh, thank you. By the way. Okay, let's see. I feel like, okay, I want to attack this guy. I want to attack this front arch because I'm going to ignore the ones in the back for now. I find that in the past, I used to try to just render everything, but I don't really, if you do the most kind of upfront one first, people will assume what the ones in the background look like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They fill in the information.
Yeah, so, you don't have to do everything.
Yeah, and sometimes it can be overwhelming to have that much visual interest all over and drag your eye to places you don't want it.
Totally. It can be so daunting.
For sure. And plus, I feel like there's plenty of information there already. That second one back, you have the major cut lines. And so this one, can really get in there. Which Kendall is saying that she loves watching this painting process. And I have to agree, it's so satisfying to see those edges just like, wow.
Yeah, so one thing that I'm doing is I added a clipping mask to this layer. I think eventually I'll probably collapse it. But what it allows me to do is kind of treat these like brush strokes independent of, I can just gradually add shapes and shadows rather than kind of working over what I've already done. There's actually another tool that accomplishes this called, I think it's like the art brush. The art history.
Oh yeah, I think. Yeah, that's like a list of all the things that you've done.
Yeah, and then you can go back and select individual marks that you've made and edit them like their own layers.
Which is crazy, like the level of control there. I just live in the history panel.
Yeah, and I have a friend that uses it so well, but I know that it doesn't work with my workflow, and so, but maybe it'll work with some of your guys's.
Absolutely. It's all personal preference. So
totally.
Whatever you like. And that's the whole reason you want to experiment and just figure it out. Yeah. By the way, Cody says, Kevin's jelly effect is so good. I want to reach out and poke it. There's always that temptation with anything jelly, right? You just want to, but don't do that, Cody, with real jellyfish. I don't think they like it.
Sometimes it's such a great indicator of like, if your rendering is good, if you can actually imagine the tactile feeling of it in real life, then you've kind of done your job.
You've done your job plus some. I agree. Yeah. It's just one of those tactile things. It's almost like evoking emotion with art. It brings you to that place. It makes it feel feely.
Yes.
Tactile.
Yeah. In so many ways.
By the way, Kevin Wada says, "Yay, Kevin! Fun seeing the brushes you use. I've never seen that part of your process before."
Oh,
So people are seeing a new side of your artwork.
very cool.
And by the way, you should definitely check out Kevin's social medias and website and all that jazz. It's got so much great art on it.
Let's see. So every once in a while, I have to turn this sketch layer off just so I'm seeing how things are actually looking, because I feel like when I leave the sketch layer on, it kind of makes me, it like convinces me that I'm doing more than I'm actually doing, because like so much of the information is already presented. So I kind of have to tweak it every once in a while. Let's see. This is looking a little bit too dark, but so what I'll do now is I'll just Command E and collapse those layers.
Yeah.
And maybe start a new one. Yeah.
I love collapsing.
Yeah, it's really gratifying.
Definitely. Just keeping those layers down. I don't know. I get that frustration feeling of being on the wrong layer quite often. So
Yeah. I feel yeah. I think, yeah, and it's also one way to kind of maintain a traditional workflow, I feel like, is because, you know, when we're painting on an actual canvas, we don't have that privilege. We don't have like layers that we can manipulate and organize, but every once in a while, if you decide to paint on a single layer, you can actually really paint organically and traditionally.
For sure.
Yeah.
I find that, yeah, if you're trying to go for a painterly style, it is advantageous so that you can get more of the mixture feel of like colors overlapping.
Yes, totally.
And that's twice fold in fresco. Have you ever tried fresco, Kevin?
I haven't. I really ought to though. Yeah.
Definitely.
Is it similar to Photoshop at all, or is it like?
It's somewhat. It gives you the ability to paint, but it's not quite as heavy. So it gives you like some of the more technical aspects of painting might be missing, but there are, first of all, the bare bones, in my opinion, of what you would need for illustration, and then there are live brushes which act like traditional brushes. So you've got watercolor brushes that sink into the paper and mix into each other like water would on paper.
Yeah.
And then oil brushes that have the texture of the canvas and are like mushy and mixed together like oil would on the canvas. They're so much fun. You've got to try it at some point. It's like finger painting, or like, I don't know, being a kid again and just messing around with like materials, but you don't have to get messy. It's so fun.
That's what I kind of miss about I don't know, Photoshop kind of does, there's ways to like replicate that happy accidents, right?
For sure. Yes, I agree. Happy accidents all over the place.
I feel like sometimes when I'm painting in Photoshop, I'm like, oh man, I'm responsible literally for everything that happens.
There's almost too much control.
Yeah, there's a lot of control and I just want to forfeit sometimes.
Oh, completely. That's why sometimes I throw like a soft light layer over everything and just kind of mesh in a little bit wild. Like,
totally.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah. Or actually I'll show you later in the sky when I'm doing the sky, but sometimes with a smudge brush, I'll set it to like a scatter, and that's kind of a way to like quickly randomize things.
That's great.
So that can be kind of fun.
Definitely. Finding those techniques to kind of randomize, it makes it feel a little bit more organic, but it's still like the illusion of random.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Look how random I can be. Scatter, scatter.
Like tricking ourselves, and it's totally random.
By the way, Kendall says the art history panel is very underused. I use I used to be better at using it, but haven't been in Photoshop nearly as much, so I've forgotten. Kendall does a lot of MoGraph stuff, motion graphics. So
very cool.
All over the Adobe CC. Go Kendall.
Okay, I feel like this is trying to look kind of where I want it to. I realize that this light source, this needs to be a lot brighter. Let's see. And I love this. I've become really attached to this dry brush. There's like a, yeah, very attached. There's like a Kyle Webster brush. It's probably just like in the painting section or the brush section, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe it's like oils or something, but it's very similar. I just happen to like this one.
Definitely. It gets the streakiness across.
Yeah.
I have one that is from Kyle's Mega Pack, which is called Bristle Balm, that kind of has that same effect. That's just streaks of organic texture going through, and it really shows the direction of your strokes, which is, again, like traditional painting. It gives a great effect.
Oh, that's really cool.
By the way, loving, the little rim light bits coming in here. It's always, like we said at the beginning, like the last 10% that really make it pop.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like whenever I'm painting, I'm super stressed out in the beginning.
Oh no.
Because I'm like, oh, I don't even know if this is gonna work out. You know?
Yeah. There's no guarantee.
There's never, no guarantees in painting, right?
Exactly.
But it requires so much like faith sometimes, like self-belief.
Just like yesterday, gotta have faith.
Yeah.
But it's so true. No, that's another part of it. You know, like I think I actually said this yesterday too. Like everybody should have an art therapist because there's so much vulnerability with it on the emotional side. But then there's also, the feeling that you have to jump headlong into something. And especially at the beginning, maybe you feel like you're making leaps and bounds, but then you hit some kind of wall. It always happens where it's just like, oh, I can't get past this. And I feel like I'm just not doing well. And that's not a feeling that many people are comfortable with, but you have to become comfortable with it with art.
Yeah, and it takes some time. I feel like we grow up and we're like, everyone tells us that we're great at art. It's we're like finger painting and stuff, and we get so used to that, and we're not really instructed on how to take criticism, especially with ourselves. So it's that's another skill, is like, how do you parse through critique and make it useful for yourself?
Agreed. Yeah. And not take it so personally. I feel like that was a lot of art school for me. Was just learning to take critique really well. By the way, we haven't really talked about your background that much. Do you have any like art school experience, or were you self-taught at any point?
Oh man, my story, I feel like, is really bananas.
Yes, BANANAS.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Cool. Let's see, where do I start? I was an elementary school teacher for like 2 years, teaching in Atlanta, Georgia, in a pretty low income area. And then after that, I thought I was really into, I'm still interested in fashion. And then I actually worked in New York and Tokyo for a couple months, training to be the manager of this like kind of big fashion corporation.
Wow.
Yeah, and I realized that I wanted to be more creative and still do art, because I studied fine art in college, but I didn't know, when I was in school, there was no discussion about how to make this into a career.
For sure.
So all of my teachers were practicing fine artists, but never really talked about how to make connections, and super discouraged any illustration, actually.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, and so I felt like I had a really narrow focus. I didn't learn any technique. I maybe took like 1 or 2 design classes and a super rudimentary Photoshop class, but I didn't learn a lot of like traditional painting skills or anything like that. Whoa, that's super slow. Okay.
You're using your smudge brush, right?
Yeah, sometimes the smudge tool.
It decides to chug.
Yeah. So I actually left Tokyo in the middle of this like training program. and I moved home, and I was privileged enough to like lock myself in my childhood room at home with
Yeah.
my parents, right? And I just looked at YouTube tutorials for like 6 months, 50 hours a week,
Wow.
and I just taught myself to paint digitally, even though
Amazing.
I was so bad at it.
I mean, everybody is. Yeah, you got to
Yeah,
start somewhere.
yeah, totally. Um, and it was painful. It was hard. Like, I really wasn't sure if I was making progress. I kind of thought I was, and I wasn't sure if I wasn't going in the right direction. But after a while, I found like an internship at a mobile gaming company.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and I just kind of kept going with it. So
Excellent.
and actually a lot of the tutorials that I saw were from this guy named Feng Zhu.
Yes, I love Feng Zhu.
Yeah, he's so good. I had a chance to see him paint live once and kind of
No
demo.
way.
And
wait, did you go to Singapore? Isn't that where he is? Or did he come here?
He did a visit for I don't know if you've heard of it, GDC. It's like the Game Developer Conference.
For sure, yeah.
Oh man, I have to wait until this spinning wheel solves it.
It'll take care of itself. It's all good.
Yeah. But I just heard him talk, and he's so fast. He's like
Incredibly
crazy fast. And I feel like that's why I wanted to be faster, because he could just demonstrate his ideas with remarkable speed and competence, and I really admired that. So
absolutely. And he builds entire worlds, like the craziness of the perspective and all that jazz. Like, it just happens so fast. If you guys have never seen any of Feng Zhu's videos, I mean, you were very lucky to see him in person, but he's also got this huge library of videos on his YouTube page that are all just free to access, amazing information. So definitely check that out. Which I believe he also has a physical school, right? I think
he does, yeah. I think, it might be in Singapore. I think you might be right.
Yeah. That's because my husband James actually went to Concept Design Academy down in California, and some of the students there went to Feng Zhu's school after that, and so he kept in contact with them and was like, what's the school like, you know, like it's this kind of mythical thing, like over in Singapore, like, whoa.
I know, yeah, the work that comes out of that program is nuts.
Nuts, absolutely. But I love that you mentioned that, because I love recommending a particular video. If you guys haven't seen his visual libraries video, it is so packed full of good information for how we learn as artists, and just how you can, you know, give yourself the greatest advantage for reference and libraries in your mind that you can always just pull out a book and, like, you know, look at that reference.
Yeah, reading Rainbow.
Yes, take a look. Thank you, Cody, for putting links for his YouTube and FCD school on there. And also, hi, Paloma. We've seen Paloma in the chat. Oh, yeah. And by the way, reminder that in about an hour, we are going to be looking at the daily creative challenges that you guys are all creating today. So if you didn't catch that, there is a DCC video that Voodoo Val just did right before us. And I believe we're making a haunted house, but with like a flickering effect in the timeline, which is super cool. And we're going to be looking at those and giving a little bit of a critique session. So if you would like to be part of that, go to the challenge tab above the chat or the Photoshop Discord. Thank you. Oh, and by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, come over to Behance. We want to talk with you.
Oh man, I totally hear my art director in my head right now telling me that these shapes are too similar.
What shapes?
So I'm looking, like, if y'all look, this, and then there's like, here, let me draw that better. There's like this shape right here. There's this shape like here, right here, and right here.
Mm-hmm.
And they're super similar in size and geometry.
Right.
And I have a tendency to create patterns like that in my work, and I know it's actually a weakness of mine. It's something I want to get better at.
Nice.
But
Yeah.
when that happens, it just flattens everything. It makes everything less dynamic. So the way to solve that is to, go back over your work and just diversify those shapes and make sure that they're just like slightly different. Some are big and some are small. And you see it sometimes with shapes, but you also see it with just lines in general too. So like this might be an example. These are looking pretty good. Like here's a big pass, and this one's like smaller.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have like small, big. These are things that I tried to resolve in my sketching phase. So there's things that you can do early on that makes your planning easier for your work.
For sure. Giving yourself that solid roadmap.
Yeah, totally.
But there's so many elements in this one. I'm not surprised that like at some point you find something where you're like, oh, I could fix this. And it's the ability to find those things. I think that is the hard thing to hone, because you can fix them pretty easily. Like, oh, variety, vary it up.
Yeah.
But if you don't catch them, then they'll always be in your work. So good job,
Totally.
Kevin.
Thanks. Yeah, pat on my back.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool when artists recognize their own progress. Like they'll look at old work and think, man, that looks really bad. And I can see why it looks
great.
bad. Yeah. Or when I feel like over time, I used to see like these pros that I just didn't understand how they did certain things. Like I would look at their work and my mind would be boggled. But if you can learn to like break down work just by looking at it and try to, backwards plan and recreate it, then it means that you've gained some knowledge. You've built some knowledge for yourself over time.
Absolutely. I also love if you find that you're good at one thing or not good at another. Say you had strong design skills but couldn't render it very well. You could use that same design and do it again.
Yeah.
Use what you have. Shortcuts. But I agree. Finding your weaknesses and actively trying to better yourself as an artist is basically the purpose as an artist. It's not just to make work, it's to get better at making work so that you can someday make that thing that's really important. And you never know when that's going to come. It's not that like you're waiting for your masterpiece. It's that at some point you're going to create it without even knowing. It's your masterpiece.
Totally. Yeah. And your masterpieces sometimes are like different breakthroughs that you have.
Absolutely. Be like, that one part of the iceberg, that was perfect. I did it. I nailed that thing.
I'll definitely look at pieces and think like, oh man, that was the time that I learned how to represent like volume more accurately, or that was when I learned to be more confident in my shapes. And it doesn't ever always happen all at once or overnight. It's such a process.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's all a process. Everything in life
is a process. What does that even mean?
I know. Why are we even here? Oh, Hey, Esther, how you doing? Says hi, everyone, by the way. And Kendall says, have to work. Thanks for the fun stream. Looks amazing so far.
Thanks
for
joining us.
Definitely.
Okay. So I feel like this is in a pretty good place. I want to start working on the water and the reflections. So one thing that I'll do is I'll take the sky, and I'll just flip it. And
flip it over and reverse it. Look at that.
Yeah. And then I'll just kind of clip it to the water layer that I had.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe I'll kind of warp it a little bit to stretch it for perspective.
Little squashy squash.
Yeah.
You stretch.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, reminder to stretch, everybody, if you need to take a break.
That is a good idea.
Elbow popped.
Oh, man. Okay. And then I feel like this gets to be some of the fun part of the piece, is when I start taking individual pieces and just like duplicating them and flipping them.
The reflection time.
Yeah.
Just come.
And I totally understand that, you know, maybe these reflections don't actually, maybe they wouldn't appear in real life because there's so much noise in this water, right? And we wouldn't see them as clearly, but
this is your world.
That's our liberty as artists, right? We get to do really cool stuff with what we want.
Exactly. It's the best part of being an artist, you know?
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. That's gonna come over there.
And by the way, Ferry is asking, what playlist do we play now for the music? And maybe Jacob could answer that. I don't know what music is going on behind us, but it's something. Should we make music? Oh, it's all lo-fi apparently.
That's really cool. I've been listening to like lo-fi when I've been painting recently, actually.
Nice.
It's so relaxing.
Absolutely. I think background music, if you find the right mood for it, it can be amazing. For a solid probably month, I really wanted to play Animal Crossing, but I don't have a Switch and it was impossible to get one. So I would just play the new Animal Crossing soundtrack for hours. It was so good.
What does it sound like? I imagine it's insanely calming. I don't know.
It depends on the time of day. So basically the soundtrack goes through all different hours of the day that you would play in game. So at like 5 a.m. it's randomly like burp, 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 burp. It's just really weird and like little like accordion instruments or something like that. But most of the time, it's really like not chiptune-y, but like, I don't know, light instruments that I don't know the name of, and they're very calming.
Yeah, it's like calming, pleasant.
Mm-hmm. Basically just, what would you garden to? That kind of music.
Yeah.
Oh, but the best time ever was my neighbor was practicing on the piano Ghibli music. Oh, that was so good. Like Howl's Moving Castle just cascading through my window. Oh, love it.
That sounds beautiful.
It was. Since then, I haven't heard them, but maybe I'll just leave a note at their door and be like, keep practicing, please, with a $5 bill.
Yeah.
Like, please, thank you.
Let's see. I feel like, so I'm reflecting this, but I also understand that there's like this perspective that's happening. Mm-hmm. So later on, I'll know to kind of tweak it, but right now this is what it's going to be.
Sounds great.
Let's see.
Yeah, so you're fading it out towards the bottoms.
Yeah. And honestly, you'll see like later on, but at the very end, probably the last like 15% of my painting process for these types of works, I'll go ahead and just flatten everything and actually add a lot of like personal touches and stuff that I think make the work more stylized to what I enjoy. And I kind of use the beginning part to just really establish like all the values and like a more cohesive illustration before I kind of give myself free rein. So yeah.
Like you got to do the work before you get your treat.
Yeah, exactly.
Love it. I'm imagining if somebody's never done reflections before, like this could be a really good opportunity to tell them about it. So just remember, everybody who's watching, that he's basically taking layers that have been separate this entire time. So that's one reason to keep layers separate. And then flipping them vertically.
Yeah. Yep. Flip vertical.
And then just squashing them down a little bit with the transform tool and then fading them out at the bottom so that they don't go all the way, like crisp all the way around, but basically just disappear. The further back, it seems like the more they disappear. That looks so cool. Oh, I just love that instant gratification. Like right
yeah, it's super nice. Yeah, this is like the fun part.
Yeah. So
And
then it all comes together.
And I'll have to sort of manually like tweak these imperfect parts, but they don't have to be hyper accurate, because once I have this texture established, I'll go ahead and create more noise on top of it to show the surface of the waves. Let's see.
The juiciest of details.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you guys ever created like a frozen scape like this in the chat? I'm curious. I've only worked with ice like in one illustration, I feel like. So it's kind of amazing that you hopped into this. Do you usually do any certain kind of, what would you call it, like landscape type, or do you bounce all over?
I kind of go all over the place. I feel like I'll try to diversify just so that I'm not, just so that I'm always learning, you know?
Absolutely.
Because
new challenges.
If I get really comfortable with a certain thing, then I know it's a time that maybe I'd like just try something else. And I think I mentioned this in the first stream, but landscapes are actually not natural for me. Like painting full scenes like this is something that I didn't do for a really long time, and I avoided. And at a certain point, I just felt like, oh, I really need to just do it.
Just bite the bullet.
Yeah. I really need to just like start addressing my weak points, because I'll be a better artist for it.
Exactly. You know, in the end, it's going to be worth it.
Yeah.
All the pain and tears.
Totally.
And it so is. I absolutely love this art style that you're going for. And I always look forward to seeing what people will create in the future too, where it's like, I could see where you're going and it's just awesome. Yeah. Where it's like, oh man, this is just the clearest path to being an amazing artist at basically everything. You got it all down. You did the whole series of characters before, like we showed yesterday. Oh my gosh, so much. And you can see your fashion influence in it too.
Totally. Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry. I was just gonna say, when you're telling your story of how you like came up and learning and everything, I tallied 3 different careers that you've had. So what the heck? Actually 4. No, you have 4.
Yeah. Oh man. Not even including like my aside like oddball college jobs. So weird.
What kind of weird jobs did you have?
I feel like my weirdest early job, that looks a little bit too, was just, I worked at an axolotl lab.
Axolotl? Like actual axolotls?
Oh, you know what an axolotl is?
Yeah, like salamanders.
Yeah, they're like these Aztec salamanders. They have their gills external, so they kind of look like this. Yeah.
They're so cute.
But they're really good at regenerating like limbs and parts of their body. And
oh, really?
Yeah, so this lab that I worked at was doing just studies on them, because they were trying to, I believe they were trying to replicate like that regeneration power in people. And so
yep, I want to regrow a limb. Give me that power, axolotls.
Yeah, why not? Yeah. And so I actually just took care of them. Like I cleaned them and like fed them and stuff.
So you just had professional pets?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Did you name them?
I did not name them. There were too many. There were like at least 50 of them.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It was a huge endeavor. So.
Wow. Very cool.
Oh yeah. Let's see. Okay. Now I want to do these little ice breaks here too.
I was part of something called the Adobe Creative Residency, which if you guys don't know it, Google it. It's amazing. It's a program where Adobe basically allows you a year of time to be a full-time Adobe employee and take your career from where it is to where you want it to be, however you see fit, get mentors, opportunity, all that kind of stuff. And my fellow resident, Nadine Coluzzi, she was obsessed with axolotls. She loves them so much. And oh man, I love, I don't know, her enthusiasm for things was so cute. And so every once in a while she'd be like, come look at this. And I'd be like, what is it? And she'd show me a picture on her phone of just an axolotl.
Oh man. Yeah, they're so cute and so weird. I feel like nature is such a good inspiration point because
for sure
it produces the craziest stuff.
Everything.
Yeah.
I'm thinking next time you're here, we're gonna have to do a fire axolotl piece.
Yeah.
Now that you got it, it's your thing now.
That sounds like terrifying, but also really interesting.
You can totally see the frills being like flame on, you know?
Yeah.
By the way, Cody Bear put a link in the description or the chat, whatever you call it, for the Adobe Community Fund, which is basically what the residency has become this year because of COVID. There's so much more that they could do with something called the Community Fund rather than the residency. It basically can reach many more artists because it is a $1 million fund that is all for hiring artists to do work. So you can apply for that. There are month-to-month selections of artists, and they basically select you for either doing a commission for Adobe or creating your own work and getting paid for it. And it's $500 to $5,000 depending on the scope of whatever project you're pitching. And there's a lot more information about it at the link that Cody put in the chat. So check that out and apply.
Very cool.
Yeah. Also, Elizabeth said, ooh, this is what I was going to be doing for my illustration class over the next month, illustrating a fantasy or sci-fi landscape. Oh my gosh. Perfect. This is such inspiration.
Perfect. Let's see. Okay, so I have all of my reflections. No, I don't actually. Oh, I forgot. Okay. I need to reflect.
Oh, the jelly.
The jellyfish, yeah. Let's see.
By the way, the reflections, amazing. I'm sure the chat completely agrees. Like, oh man.
So this is gonna be kind of weird because I'm gonna have to like sort of approximate where.
Yeah, how far
it lands, right? Yeah. And
distance.
Sometimes if I don't quite know, I just kind of fudge it.
Just kind of fudge it.
Yeah.
Pro advice.
Like, yeah, just whatever. I'll try to make it convincing enough. But sometimes I don't want to stress myself out.
I don't want to stress myself out.
And maybe we'll get a reflection of this one back here too.
Oh yeah, the far.
Yeah.
Makes sense. But yeah, the distance between oars, I feel like that creates this wonderful tension of like the reflection, I should say, the reflection of the oar in the water, having it closer on the lower side, farther on the right side. It just is this like really satisfying visual tension that I love.
And it has this like geometric symmetry too.
Right.
Which is really fun.
You know, that geometric symmetry that we all love.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of mixing up like organic shapes and more geometric shapes. Like this, of course, is super organic because of just like the matter of what it is. And
for sure.
Then you have these like hard, flat objects. And even with this is kind of a mixture of the both. So I find that if I have too much of one type of shape, it's not as interesting of a piece to me. But that was something that I learned like as I was just doing more and more work. Yeah.
But it seems like your theme that you're like catching on to. I also love the juxtaposition of the setting with the focal point, because he is this character in the middle of it that has so much bright color, geometric lines, and like just completely different from the setting. I guess his lines are geometric in a different way than like the icebergs or, arches.
Yeah.
Ice arches.
Yeah.
But it creates such a lovely just juxtaposition between the two, where it's like he's not from here, he's a visitor in this place, and so are you as a viewer.
Thanks. Yeah. There's always several ways to make something stand out.
Mm-hmm.
You can use shape, you can use value, contrast, design, whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's always good to keep in mind that your tool belt is endless.
Absolutely. Also, just the subtle organic lines that you have in the ice arch going into the lava jelly, it just guides your eye there, and then the lava jelly guides you down to the focal point, and then of course it trails off to the left and everything, and then back around. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Got that view line.
Oh man, so much is like, and some of it is intentional, and some of it is like, oh wow, yeah, cool.
Happy accidents. Yeah, totally intentional. Ain't that just the way? It's always an intentional thing. Just trust me.
Yeah, if you learn one thing from art school, you meant to do everything.
Yeah. Especially if it's genius.
Yeah.
Oh man, I always hated that in class if they ever put you on the spot and be like, okay, so did you intend this? What's your intention here? And I'd be like, oh no. Don't look at me. Stop it. Because as a little art student, it's very scary. But when you were locked in your room for 6 months studying art via YouTube, did you find that you thrived in that environment, or did you want more like input about like right, wrong, going forward, all that?
I feel like I just wasn't sure if I was on the right path. And that's what was so emotionally hard. Like I wish I had a teacher to tell me if I was or not, but also I've had instructors misguide me. So sometimes it's like about finding the right mentor and the right person for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Finding not just anybody, but the right somebody.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think, what did I do during that period? I feel like I must have, you know what? I had a really close friend that kind of reviewed my work, and I would ask her for critique because she was in the industry already.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really invaluable to me. But there's definitely ways to find those mentors.
For sure.
I'm a big fan of informational interviews. If you aren't sure of what you want to do, and you kind of like, you have an inkling, but you don't really know what the day-to-day is like of a type of profession.
Right.
I went through a period where I just cold called a lot of people.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
wow.
It can be daunting, but at the same time, I feel like people are so helpful. I mean, if anyone that's watching right now has any questions, you're free to like email me or whatever.
Or ask them right now. You're live. You could get your answers right here.
But I find that most successful people had people that helped them earlier in their careers, and they just want the opportunity to pay it forward.
So true.
So that's something that you can do.
Yeah, basically imagine if you're a student or somebody just starting out in their career and they really want like advice, just imagine you have all of the things that you ever wanted. Wouldn't you want to just let somebody else know how you got there?
Yeah.
You don't become hardened or anything.
Right.
No, you can't advance. But I love that attitude. I think it's prevalent in most artists because it does have the industry, I should say, has a way of weeding out people who are not cool a lot of times. And that's always an active thing. If somebody shows their true colors, then you're just like, okay, bye. But if somebody is like a cool, really into like helping people learn, they will go far in the industry just based on that. So Elizabeth Mock says, mentors are important. I agree.
So, I mean, it's a whole skill, like, to be able to transfer knowledge. You can be an amazing artist independently, but if that is where your value stops, and that's where it stops, you know?
Yeah.
So, but
Why
if you
cut it
can
short?
be an asset to a team, then that makes you more special and colorful.
For
So
sure. It's funny that you actually worked at a mobile game place, because I did that as well for quite a while.
yeah.
And yeah, how, like, did that teach you a lot? Or do you feel like it was kind of a stepping stone?
I think every gig that I've had has taught me something different.
Mm,
And
very true.
so, like, maybe doing that, working at that particular company, I wasn't really making the work that I wanted to make. I wasn't like working on the things that I found that were cool or exciting, but it taught me how to work with others. It taught me like how to use the tools better.
Mm-hmm.
Like even the way that I have my hotkeys set up right now is uh, I learned like 8 years ago from my coworker. So
8 years. Wow.
I can't remember what switched, but my D is the eyedropper.
Uh-huh.
My S is smudge tool, and my B is brush, and then E is eraser. So
Wow.
my hands keep going like this, and it's just really efficient. Yeah.
It's jazz hands on the keyboard. Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. And it's interesting that you could think about that, like your placement on the keyboard. Maybe it can be like more ergonomic. We should like make it the right keys so that our hand stretches every time.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be so valuable.
For sure. By the way, Elizabeth in the chat says, shout out for Adobe Max. Adobe Max is coming up in, oh gosh, a week, 2 weeks. I know the 21st is one of the days of it, but it is absolutely free to anyone with an Adobe ID. So if you're here on Behance, you can sign up for Adobe Max, and please just go to all the things. This is usually thousands of dollars to attend. So that it's free this year is amazing. You should take advantage. And there are going to be so many different ways to learn and communicate and build that community that we've been talking about, because everybody who's going to Max is like who you want to be around. So it's awesome. And also Cody says, reminds us that in 24 minutes, we are going to be going over the daily creative challenge art that you guys have all created. There is a tab above the chat to submit. And as well, we're going to look at it on the Photoshop Discord. Whoop, whoop. Oh, and Elizabeth says it's 2 weeks till Max. Yay, I know time. Yeah. I'm actually doing a stream for Max in Fresco. So that one is going to, I should know how long it is until then, but it's a great one. So if you guys have never used Fresco and are curious about using it, like traditional tools, but digitally in Fresco, then check it out. It's going to be real fun. And what are these triangles?
Yeah. So I feel like, I mean, I really like to inject more hard shapes at the end. So I actually got this idea from Steven Universe.
No way!
Yeah.
Yes, we are the crystal gems. Or wait.
Yeah.
Are the crystal gems. There we go.
The art direction in that show is just absolutely incredible. And I feel like they do such an amazing job of representing a world in like a super beautiful way, and a super stylized way as well. So I learned like they'll do fills like if they have this, sometimes they'll do a line that doesn't exactly line up, and it makes everything feel more sort of ethereal. But they also put a lot of these like triangles in their water, and they use it to render their water, especially highlights and stuff. So this
Love that.
It's a little too white, but.
So you've done studies of the backgrounds?
Yeah, it actually, I did like one fan art piece a long time ago. just to, and it made me like explore it, you know, a little more. But I think it's cool to draw from a lot of different sources and stuff. It
Absolutely.
helps expand your art. It makes it more interesting.
I think it's a pleasant surprise to everybody that you're using Steven Universe as a reference for this, because everybody in the chat's like, Steven Universe, yes, love it, love it.
Yeah.
But I do love that you're using references from all over the place. Like you could say, oh, this is more of a painterly style, but then you get to Steven Universe, which is much more like flat 2D animation. And still, it's like reference is always valuable. So great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the way that you choose to synthesize it that makes it interesting, right? So
absolutely, and gives your unique perspective as an artist as well. Like this kind of thing could make it so nobody's mistaking this from somebody else's art. You know, it's yours.
Yeah, make it your own.
By the way, Paloma says the far left lava jelly looks like a lounging alien.
Yeah.
Just chilling, like, hey, what up? I can see the legs crossed. Yeah. And also, Fairy asks, to create a reflection, what rules do you use to create the reflection look to make it realistic?
Rules. I feel like, you know, reflections all vary depending on the surface that you're looking at. So I still look at studies, even if it's a reflection, you can't necessarily just like broadly apply the same rules to every reflection. So because this water is, you know, we're imagining it to be pretty still rather than choppy, that means the reflections read a lot more clearly. So
definitely.
Yeah. And
if it were more choppy, would you use like something to wavify the edges or something?
Yeah. And I would probably just make things more blurry, and things would just not be as clear.
So there you go, Fairy. Depends on your reflection. What would you call it? Like the mirror-like surface that you're using.
Yeah, your reference.
Exactly. It all comes back to reference. Like if you don't know what this environment looks like, you might not have those rules to go forward or anything like that. It gives you that logical step-by-step. You have to kind of disseminate it for yourself, but once you have it, got it locked in.
Yeah.
And now it's part of your visual library reference.
Totally. Okay. So I feel like I have most of the piece established. This is when I actually just go into this huge like brush archive, and I just kind of pick things and I kind of have fun. So, you know, there's like gouache, there's dry
media. Now he's having fun.
And I like getting in just a lot of different textures, especially splatters and stuff. Let's see. I have a bunch of splatter brushes. And I feel like in traditional painting, you have parts where the edges aren't this clean, you know? Like things overlap unintentionally. Sometimes they're not just like pen tooled hard edges. So I try to get rid of some of that.
Absolutely.
And all I'm doing is I'm using the eyedropper tool, and I'm picking different colors and mixing it on top of the objects that we see.
So is this a layer above everything?
This is above everything.
Above it all. Yeah. By the way, Mallory says, wow, that reflection. This looks like a photo at this point. It's come along beautifully.
Thanks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go on.
No, I mean, that's like another thing that I love sort of incorporating in my style is that I try to create like a convincing enough world where maybe at a glance it does look like a photo. But if you look closely, I mean, obviously this isn't real, so yeah.
Look at the fire jellies to see whether it's real or not. Maybe, I don't know, it looks really convincing. But yeah, I think that zooming in will show them the juicy textures that you've got going on and the really like painterly quality of it. Because it definitely, like from afar, it's reading realistic because you've got such like, you know, a foundation in reality because of your reference and your amazing painting skills. But then you zoom in and you get that payoff of the juicy textures where it just looks like, I want to look at it forever.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of going around and having fun with like different brushes.
Absolutely. Elizabeth is asking, do you ever use ripple effects in the water?
Ripple effects. Is that a filter? I'm trying to...
I think there is a ripple filter, but they might just be asking about like however you do it, creating a ripple effect.
Yeah, I think sometimes. So I might score like, here, let me demo this.
Ooh, getting an exclusive demo.
So an easy way to do this is to actually just, whatever is reflected, you can take a smudge and just kind of smudge it over. Let me find one that doesn't lag as much.
Yeah, that's another consideration. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, this one's rough too.
Too much high resolution.
Yeah. Sometimes later in the painting, things will just get really slow, you know.
For sure. By the way, Paloma's bringing out, I think, a reference to yesterday. It's depthy, lol. Very depthy. And Elizabeth says, ripples to show the water movement, I mean.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Well, since the smudge brush is taking forever, you can just take like...
Yeah, a little paint.
Sample the colors next to it and kind of push and pull towards the edges. You know, and that's like another way to sort of do it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So the I guess hands-on approach of like just paint it.
Yeah.
But that is a good idea. Like, yeah, you have the light going in and right next to it you have the reflection going out. So it's like they are crossing paths and that's what creates the look of the ripple.
Totally. Yeah, you have and that's actually like a really cool effect, is that you have this super clean reflection, but then you have something kind of making you acknowledge that it's not a mirror, you know?
Absolutely.
So,
although, I mean, in this world, we could have a mirror. It's fine. They're fire jellies.
Let me see if this helps. So I basically grouped all of my previous layers, and I'm gonna see if that cuts down the lag if I smudge. Oh, it does a little bit.
Nice. By the way, we have about 12 minutes before we get into the daily creative challenge. And then after we review those, we will have about 15 minutes after that. But it looks so done. So I don't know what else, like,
I know,
if you want to do anything else.
I think one effect that I wanted to do was, sometimes I'll try to have some foreground elements to push the perspective a little more.
Yeah.
You know, so if I have like these fire shapes right here, or whatever, I'll make a set and then I'll kind of like blur it as I go. Or I'll blur it later, but I'll show you guys.
All right, so hard round brush, red effects going off in like a motion, well, like in directions that make it feel like there's motion to it.
Yeah, and this is another way to sort of add dynamism sort of in your composition.
Dynamism, everybody.
To really like control the shapes of what you're making. So this might be successful, it might look awful. So everything.
I have a feeling it's gonna be awesome.
See what happens, yeah.
But yeah, that's the whole point, is just playing around and seeing what works, what doesn't. And you know, you're gonna land on something eventually. So just keep trying. And it's basically all arrows pointing at our focal point.
Yeah. So these technically would be, you know, coming from this jellyfish right here. But if our camera is, you know, we as a viewer are looking from a certain vantage point, this would be coming in and sort of surrounding us, because these embers will be like flickering sort of past us.
For sure.
And then I'll do blur. I just learned how to pronounce this. It's Gaussian blur.
Gaussian,
Yeah. But then there's also this lens blur that I've used less of.
There are so many ways to blur. Yeah, it's basically just, what do you want?
And sometimes I just kind of mess with it and see what happens.
Have you guys ever like messed around with effects like that? Because I definitely always rely on Gaussian, but like there are so many different ways to do things. So like the liquify tool, it brings up that same kind of what do you call it, dialog box, where you can control it as its own layer and everything. So there are funny things like that in Photoshop that can really get a very interesting effect.
Yeah, liquify is super awesome for that.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of interesting. From here, I might reduce some of the opacity just so we can see what's underneath. But
for sure,
this is definitely something I would like want to finesse later on.
Finesse off stream.
Yeah.
There's always that. I always feel that too, where it's just like, this will be a later thing just for me.
Totally.
By the way, Elizabeth says Gaussian blur, best blur, OP. And then Mallory says, yes, I'm using Gaussian right now for a photo website. Added the token plant behind a shoulder. It's a realistic godsend.
Oh, very cool.
So yeah, for photos, it can really create a depthy effect.
Depthy, yeah.
Like focal length on a camera.
Yeah. Another thing you can do is just take all the background elements and kind of blur them a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll blur accordingly. And the farthest one, I'll make more blurry, but then the center one, I'll do a little bit less.
For sure. Choosing it is basically
Pixels,
like
right?
That self-control of the effects.
Yeah.
Because they can go crazy. And by the way, Tara says, noise and Gaussian are chef's kiss, but need to explore other effects. So once you have your favorites, yes, keep exploring. You never know when you're going to find your new favorite. Also, can we just give a shout out to the iceberg break aparts on the left side? Because I feel like they're just making the composition flow so nicely. And they're like a great way to do it, because it's not just one solid sheet of ice and you have the other sizes going on, like we were talking about before. Like you paid special attention to making them different sizes and shapes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's when you have statement shapes like that, it's important to give them a lot of care.
Definitely.
And I went back and forth kind of deciding on those shapes and trying to have like a voice in my head that's always like critiquing myself throughout the painting. I think is useful.
The nagging voice.
Yeah, the nagging voice.
Do it this way. By the way, we have about 7 minutes before we check out the daily creative challenges. So excited to see those because we got some haunted houses to look at. Ooh.
So at the end, I usually will reserve this for all the final highlights, and sometimes I'll just use a color dodge tool. Do I have this in here?
Ooh, do you?
Oh, you know what? I use it with the brush actually. So I'll take a brush and then I'll change it to color dodge, and maybe around 30% or so. I'll just pick like a white or something close to a white. And this is sort of like a quick way to just make things pop out a little more. Ooh. That might, so it's
glowish.
Small things, yeah, but it'll help the painting at the end.
By the way, Elizabeth says I have to experiment with noise more. Have you ever used noise, Kevin?
Yeah, actually, most of my work has like a small noise grain at the very end.
For sure, same.
Yeah.
Love it.
It kind of just what does it do? It like adds a little
Adds
more
dots.
saturation. Yeah, like texture.
Like, a little something.
It just makes things nicer. Um,
It just niceifies it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. As long as you don't go super crazy with it.
No, the harder you go, the more nice it is.
Yeah.
It's just green at the end, like static on a page. Perfect. Oh, I love the textures you got up there on the iceberg too. Ice arch.
Oh yeah. That also comes from studying and just making sure that you're getting a variety of shapes that actually exist.
Yeah.
And then also I'm trying to add a little bit highlight glow off of this.
Ooh. Yeah, like the sun's hitting it and it's just
Yeah, because we'll see that sort of lighting effect in real life. I think it's called blooming, is what I've heard.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
The icebergs are blooming. Aw,
yeah,
almost time to harvest.
totally.
Love this world you're creating. Oh yeah. Again, that last 10%, just a little shing.
Yeah,
And everybody has their own like method for doing that. I feel like for adding some kind of glow or specularity.
yeah.
So, 10 ways to. I hate it. Skin a cat, but we need a better saying than that.
Yeah, I mean, also use the end of the piece to really try to dig into things that might not be working well. So I might want to add just like a little shadow inside of this border right here where the smoke meets this like cap. Yeah. Even if it might not actually be there, I think it helps with just pushing it out a little more.
Gotcha. By the way, Anthony Jackson says, if I could read, says, so cool how this process started from sketch yesterday. So amazing. Absolutely, I agree. Even though you had to paint on it yesterday, you're like, 20 minutes. Oh man, gotta go.
Yeah.
So silly. I just love that you're like, I almost had to stop myself, which is the best sign for a painting, to like have to stop yourself from going further before. Like if you come back and you want to paint on it, you're in the right spot.
Yeah, I find that if I'm not invested in the idea or the concept of what I'm doing from the very beginning, then I just kind of lose steam. I don't want to do it anymore. And so I've tried more and more to just be conscious of how I'm feeling at the beginning of a piece. Like,
for sure.
If I'm already feeling defeated or like I don't actually want to go through with it because it's a lot of work.
It is, yeah. It's an investment of your life.
Yeah. So you want to make work that you're excited for and that you care about.
Yeah, and if you're ever feeling like, why am I creating this? Then like, don't. It's okay.
Don't do it. You don't have to.
Just back up.
Yeah.
By the way, Anthony Sims says, all roads lead to Rome could be a good alternative for the skinning of cats. Okay, that sounds good. And also we have just a few minutes before we check out the daily creative challenges. So
sounds good.
It's exciting. Can't wait to see what you guys made. I love those triangles more and more every time I see them. Like, yeah, that's good stylization.
It's funny. I feel like in the past, maybe I would have added more stuff. But I've just kind of changed the way that I add effects, and I've become more sparing. And that's, everybody's style evolves, which is really great.
Exactly. It's an ever-evolving thing. You never stop learning. If you ever don't feel like you're, in school, then get back to school. Like you basically just want to be learning all the time.
Yeah. And you don't have to adhere to your past methods,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree.
One way that I found to be really great to evolve your style and to make it more personal is with every piece, pick out the things that you really liked about it. Like maybe it was a certain texture or a certain palette or a certain concept, and to carry that into your next piece, but to ignore like the other things that you didn't like. So eventually you're building a artistic vocabulary for yourself.
Ooh, artistic vocabulary, so fancy.
Yeah. and you're learning what you dig or you don't.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I like also thinking of every piece as a study for something. Like you don't have to be every piece is completely original, completely new. Basically just pick something that you're comfy with and then tweak it a little to be something you're a little uncomfortable with, just to push yourself that bit.
Totally.
And that's usually what personal work is all about, is just like an advancement at a time while you're building a portfolio. And then you get hired for the work you love to do. Yay.
Yeah.
All right, I think it's about time for the daily creative challenges. So real quick here. By the way, Jeremy asked, are the triangles a pattern? And that was basically like a really quick kind of pattern that you drew out and then put it down there.
Yeah, I just drew one triangle, I duplicated it, and then I kind of kept it in my layers so that I could replicate it later on when I needed it.
Love that.
Yeah.
All right, let's check out the daily creative challenges. So we've got the Photoshop Discord open here, and it is full to the brim with flickering lights. This is what Voodoo Val had us work on earlier today, which is from a haunted house, but then you add like the lights are glowing from within, which is so cool. I definitely want to learn this effect, so I'm going to go back and watch the replay. But this one is from Mercurial Forte. What a name. And it looks like this is super effective. They say, this one I made last night using Photoshop's video animation. Ooh. Oh my gosh, they have a piece that, oh, that's a cat. There are cats. There are cats everywhere. I love it. Oh, this is so cool. Very effective at showing the haunted nature. But in like a spoopy way. I love it.
Yeah, I love that color contrast and like that rotating object. It reminds me of what? It's like telekinesis. Something's going on in there. Yeah.
Someone's controlling the cat. Like,
yeah.
Woo! Fluffy is gonna fly tonight. I love it. This is so creative. Great job, Mercurial Forte, but I don't thank you for using that name. Oh my gosh, it's a mouthful. This one is Mycala. Let's check it out. Ooh, I think, oh! At first I was like, oh, is it just an image? But no, it's got some glow and a silhouette walking in front of the window in such a creepy way. And then they just pace all night. Like, I'm being creepy. You see this creep? I do that. I think, again, this is super effective using really darkened, like nighttime matte painting style kind of photo. And then just a little bit of animation can really liven things up.
Yeah, you don't need a lot.
Definitely. And this one being a little bit more red of a light makes it just the more murdery feeling.
Murdery feeling, yeah.
Yeah, murdery.
Yeah.
That's a technical term. Ooh, we've got a spooky one. Yeah, this looks like an image rather than animation, at least I think. Yeah, I think so. But I do love the spooky smoke. That is a really cool effect on the text. Oh,
yeah, it blends in so well.
It does, and it feels, yeah, like the smoke is becoming more solid for the letters, and that's a hard thing to do, to make anything smoke-wise look like it actually reads. And then, of course, coming out of a jack-o'-lantern like that, it's just a full package. Or a pull package, as I say. And here we have Black Becky, I believe is the name. We've got, ooh, some glowing lights in the window. Yeah, this is really effective. Nice. I think one thing, oh, sorry, go on.
Oh, go ahead.
One thing I was thinking of was if you have the glow like 4 times in a row and then suddenly like a ghost face like pops up for a second. So you think it's just going to repeat in a certain way, but then you have this like little breaking of it where it's like, wow, a jump scare.
Yeah, some surprise element.
Absolutely. What do you think? Is there anything you would add or take away?
I might vary up maybe the timing of the brightness, and sometimes have it get brighter and sometimes like dimmer. And so you could kind of adjust the brightness as you go.
Almost like it's flickering a little where it's like,
yeah.
Which, God.
A less functional light bulb.
Yeah, make the light bulb worse. It takes more work, but and I think that this is a perfect jumping off point for that. All right, and then we've got video timeline, animated opacity, so I could tweak timings easily. And this one is Ken Colley. Oh my gosh! So the entire house has a glow.
Nice. That
is very cool. And then the flash of the window, like, ah!
Yeah, I like the timing of that like strong silhouette. It makes me just want to focus a little more and then try to understand what it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think also because the image is so dark, it feels like it's got the glow around it really emphasizes the silhouette of the house. And turning it green makes me instantly think Dr. Frankenstein. Don't you think?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Monsters. Yeah.
It's so funny how like just a shift in the light can add so much story to it. Mm-hmm. All right. Next one. Excellent job, Ken. And then we've got Barack. This one's Blinking Lights. Very cool project. Oh, yeah. Super blue, super orange. Mm-hmm. And full opacity on that like glow effect where it's like, whoa. So it almost feels like radioactive glow on this one.
Yeah.
Which is very cool. I love it. I think that one thing that could be really cool is if you had in the glowing windows a super blown out version of the room. I don't know how plausible it is to make that happen, but if you could get a room at somewhat this perspective, then you could have that instead of just the flat color, you could have a little bit of information on the inside, so it looks like the room has a glowing light that's like blowing out all the information a ton.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And if you wanted to push that glow even further, you could kind of have it shine a little bit on the tree outside or some of the fence to extend it. Definitely.
And like you were talking about with your effect, like a little bit of bloom outside of the window edges.
Yeah.
So cool. All right, and we've got a jack-o'-lantern. Oh, look at him. He's so cute. I know it's supposed to be creepy, but this guy's kind of cute. Oh, yeah, that's a really good effect for a jack-o'-lantern because it does feel not only like, why is it glowing so strongly, but then it's like a little bit of a candle effect, like a flickering inside of it.
Very cool.
Definitely.
Yeah, I love the glow on the floor as well. You know, it makes the ambient glow really convincing.
Yeah, good call. It's true that those things like you wouldn't even know as a viewer, like, oh yeah, that's really good. But yeah, with the artist's eye, you pulled it out. Like, that's a great part. And then the subtle Halloween and the blood scrawl. Ooh, so spooky, scary. And the last one we've got from Frank. Oh, that's creepy. That is a really great effect. Oh, man.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. I think that having the glow inside of the mask too just gives it a otherworldly effect. Like it could just be creepy, like, oh, there's an alien or somebody against your window, but having it come from inside the mask gives it a fantasy element, like it's a boogeyman or something.
Yeah, and the opacity being darker and thicker at the hands or the body where it's actually pressed against the window makes it way more convincing too.
Definitely. It's like that, like the shower door kind of thing where you see the hand clearly and then everything fades back. And also it looks like there's a little kid off to the side hiding. A little detail like that. Wow. So genius. So excellent job all around, you guys. The DCCs nailed it this time. So awesome, awesome, awesome work. Definitely check out the Photoshop Discord to see more of this amazing work that people are putting out, getting feedback on, and just be part of your creative community. We're all learning together here, and it's so cool. And Halloweeny.
Cool.
Ah.
Halloween, yeah.
I'm into it. By the way, Anthony Jackson says, so awesome and scary. Nong Dong says, wow, these are so cool. Elizabeth says, these entries are so cool. Yes, I love it. Paloma says, yes, spooky, smoky pumpkin is my favorite so far. Oh,
yeah, I love the variety. That was really
tons,
cool.
Right? Yeah. So where can we add a glowing effect on this one?
I know.
A flicker on the lava jellies.
Totally. How much time do we have left? I was thinking about going to another project.
Oh, go for it. Yeah, I totally agree. This is so done. As in, you did an amazing job. And we have until 11:25. It's 11:10 now, so about 15 minutes.
All right, I will do as much as I can.
Whatever you like. We are just here for the ride. So if you want to do it, we're here for it.
So one concept that I've been playing around with is, I don't know if you've all heard about it. Let me see. It's called kintsugi. And so what this looks like is, here, I'll take a screenshot and drag it on.
Sounds good.
It's basically the Japanese art of putting ceramics back together.
Yes. Okay, I've seen this.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be a way to beautify your mistakes, or, you know, life isn't perfect, so you can celebrate all parts of it.
Absolutely.
But I've really been wanting to do a project where I illustrate objects that are like meant to be super hard, and they're not usually done in ceramics, but they're really like hard and kind of carnagey.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like maybe an axe or something. And so this is a symmetry tool, by the way. If y'all haven't used it before, it's incredible. You draw twice as fast.
Yes, we love the symmetry tool. Show it. I love it.
And it's so fun. You can get all these like amazing silhouettes like so fast. And I just love kind of using it. So
you love kind of using it just a little
bit. Yeah, kind of love using it. Yeah.
No, I agree. It is. It's so satisfying to watch it come in, where it's just like, oh yeah, I did a little bit of work and a lot of it paid off.
Yeah. It's like there's two of me, right?
Exactly. Oh, have you ever seen those people who can draw with both hands at the same time?
Oh man,
they're in real life symmetry tools.
I have. It's fantastic. It's so impressive.
Nice. By the way, Cody Bear says, oh yes, I love that. And Paloma says, yes, same, to something we said, I'm sure. And Paloma says, that was a theme for my meditation one day. Good message. Michael Tran says, from Calm. Haha, that's where I heard about it. So apparently they've all been on the same thing that talked about, what was the name of it again?
Kintsugi.
Kintsugi. Okay.
Yeah.
I've actually seen some of those ceramics in real life, and it's so beautiful. So absolutely beautiful. There was an art show at my school actually one time that they showed off some of those pieces, and it's just like the idea mixed with the execution of it is absolutely stunning.
Yeah, I love when the concept really goes well with the execution. You know? Yeah, it doesn't always work, but here it does.
And it speaks to more than just like the piece, you know, it goes beyond that. It's just like storytelling, where you get something out of the art more than just the aesthetics of it.
Totally.
Which, I mean, if that ain't what we're going for, like that's the life of all artists, I think, is to find meaning beyond just, I mean, first you want to make it look pretty, and then you want to make it like important.
Yeah. Or sometimes you want it to look murdery. Right?
I mean, oftentimes, yes.
Yeah, oftentimes. It's my flavor.
Yeah, like more murder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes, please.
Also, watching you color that in with the symmetry tool is also very satisfying. So thanks for that.
Yeah, I feel like when you do lighting with the symmetry tool, if you treat it as like a fill light coming from both ends, let's make this more jagged. You can like if the light source is coming from both ends, then it works. But if not, then if it's coming directionally from like say the top right, then it might not work so well. But I think what I'll do is have it try to come from the top so it feels more even.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
By the way, everybody, round of applause for Kevin for doing a speed round here at the end. Amazing. Just did, like 2 hours per day, full illustration, and a battle axe. Like it's all good. Can do it all.
Let's see if this turns out.
I already think it's really cool.
Pressure's on.
It kind of feels like a bat too, so it's semi-Halloween-y as well.
Yeah. So sometimes with like quicker sketches like this, I'll just try to get the darkest values in first, just so that I have like the correct information. But maybe in my larger paintings, I'll take more time with certain things. So right now we have that there. Let's see. And then I'll clip this to here. So I'm always sampling the color, and then I'll go to the color wheel and just like nudge it up just a little bit.
Just a nudge. And we talked about your color tool preferences yesterday, but he uses the, what would you call this? The triangle palette?
Yeah.
Yeah, the play button, YouTube play button.
Yeah.
And you use that so that you can get the right saturation and value, and then nudge the hue around the circle, basically.
Yeah, totally. And it allows me to pick my value, and then, even if I have this right here, I can switch to another hue and keep the same value.
For sure. By the way, Cody says, yeah, it looks kind of like a top-down view of a dragon. And Jeremy made an amazing pun. Battle axe. Good job, Jeremy. Love it. And Izzy says they agree with Cody and say that it looks like a dragon too. So could that be a theme?
I should put some eyes on it.
It's called the Dragon of Tarkir or something. I don't know. You gotta have like a fantasy place that it's from. Forged in the heart of a star.
Let's see. So I feel like ceramics usually have like a bit of a sheen to them.
For sure.
And so I have my highlight layer on a separate layer. So what that allows me to do is to maybe create a gradient.
Nice.
And still like have that highlight layer show through.
For sure. Are you a fan of ceramics, by the way?
I think we discussed this before. I have a lot of plants.
Oh yes.
They have like
babies.
homes and pots and stuff, but I don't really. I'm so bad at it. I'm so bad at like making ceramics. So I really appreciate what others can do with it.
You've made ceramics? That's so cool.
Yeah. Just like pottery in general, right? It's so hard.
Yes. Yeah. Very difficult. I really want to take a ceramics class. That was like my goal this year, but then COVID hit. So I was like, nah. Next year, right?
Next year, yeah.
But yeah, I the same as you, utmost respect with or for people who can do that and make something out of it. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I feel like it requires just patience that I don't have. That I wish I had.
I'll paint it instead. Put that highlight right there.
Yeah.
Ooh, are you starting the technique?
Oh, yeah, so, cool. So I want to make sure I get these like cracks that look kind of familiar to me.
Whoa, is that your doorbell?
That was my doorbell.
Who's here? Let them in.
I feel like it has to be a package or something.
Probably. That was a very
Yeah.
pleasant doorbell, though. I like that one.
Yeah.
Cody Bear says, I love pottery. I mean, if you guys don't love pottery, you should definitely check it out because the ceramic world is booming right now and it's amazing. I love it.
It's
I just saw, oh, yeah, I'd say so. Maybe I'm just like finding it on Instagram more and more, but it seems like my explore page is full of ceramics
oh yeah.
and they're all just so beautiful and cute. The world of cute ceramics is good.
Yeah, I feel like people are doing such a good job at like decorating right now because we're all kind of cooped up. So
Right.
that's
Yeah.
where we're investing our time, right?
Decoration.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Apparently your doorbell made Cody Bear's dog bark. I love it. Oh man, I love it so much.
It's the future.
Oh, and Jeremy says, thank you both for this awesome session. Really inspiring. You are so
Thanks,
welcome, Jeremy.
So all I'm doing to get some of this gold effect, because I don't know exactly where the lighting is coming from, it's kind of made up, is I took like a local color, which was that brown earlier, and then I stuck in like a darker version of that as a gradient. And gold always has these really sharp highlights no matter what. And so I'm just kind of sticking them in, especially at these points right here. Here, let's see if I can, oops. Yeah, these points right here where there's like a plane change.
Yes. Gotta get those planes.
Yeah.
And that I do think is a lot of experience with rendering 3D objects. Like you are imagining this in your head so you can tell where the planes are coming forward, back, all that jazz.
Yeah.
Really does take experience.
Yeah, and it's something, you know, everybody has totally the capacity to do.
For sure.
It's just knowledge built over time.
By the way, Anthony Sims says 11 a.m. pizza, the best way to live, because they were saying it's a pizza delivery guy. Jacob said, let's get the Amazon delivery man on the stream. Be like, so tell us your story. Where are you from? What are you doing? Like, I just want to get the package here. Bye.
I know. I feel like delivery people have just been, they come and they ring and they drop off. I think.
For sure.
Is that what's been happening during these times?
Yeah. I mean, I won't go outside.
Okay.
And be like, hey, face-to-face interaction when I'm avoiding the world. No, thanks. I'm good.
Totally.
But yeah, it's... I just still can't get over that Cody's dog was barking from it. It's so funny. It's like if you say like, hey, Google or something, and everybody's like, Google things are like, what?
Yeah. Let's see, what else? I feel like I want to show where these edges happen, because right now it looks super flat. Like we can tell that there's gold there, but it's not going deeper. So what we can do is start rendering out the edges right here just to show some depth, you know.
For sure.
And it's going to go a long way.
And we've only got a few minutes left here, so just want to say thank you so much for not only showing us a full-on illustration painting, but also doing this right at the end. Like, so cool. Just to see a little bit of your rendering technique, especially with the symmetry tool. We love.
Yeah, thanks.
Cody says she's a mini dachshund and has a very big bark. Lol. I grew up with Mindax, so definitely know that booming bark fills their whole chest.
Yeah, hopefully by, you know, this demo right here, things don't always have to take a lot of time.
Right.
Yeah, and so you can portray something pretty immediately if you practice enough and you know how materials read. Oops.
And if you've looked up your reference, because you
Yeah.
definitely have like an idea in your head of what you wanted, and that's why you could do it in like 10 minutes.
True, true.
Amazing.
Yeah, and otherwise, like, take your time.
For
Um,
sure.
I feel like I used to see all these amazing speed painters, and I wanted to be just like them.
Of
And
course.
it kind of just made me like not slow down as much as I should have. So,
Right. It's yeah. When is the right time to learn fastness and slowness? Because there's actually a push for Inktober is the idea that you would do one piece per day for an entire month, and then there's the idea that you would spend 1 month on one piece, and both are equally valid for sure.
oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, Anthony Sims says, thanks for the stream and also consider doing more in the future. Kevin, no pressure. And Andrew Hawkrattle is in the chat saying, hey, everybody, this is amazing. Which Andrew Hawkrattle is coming up with the Illustrator DCC. So definitely stick around for that after this. We will not be back tomorrow, unfortunately, but there are so many more things to look forward to. Just always keep it on the live tab to see what's coming up next. And we have had such a blast being with you these last 2 days. And just request that Kevin comes back all the time, and you'll see more amazing stuff like this.
Yeah, this has been
is
super
your life
rewarding.
now.
I know.
All right, I think it's about time that we have to head out. By the way, Ferry says, Anna's smile reminds me of a character in video games. What character? Is it Kirby? Anyways, thank you so much for being here, you guys. It's been a blast hanging out. Kevin, thank you so much for doing so much work in these last 2 days. You're seriously so productive. Thank you, Jacob, for handling all of the production. Guys, remember to vote. If you're in the US, remember to vote. Look up how you're going to vote. Make a plan for it. We love you. Wash your hands. Wear masks. Have a great day. Kevin, is there anything you would like to say before we leave off?
No, I think you covered it.
Woo! Did it all. Yeah. All right. We will see you later. Enjoy the rest of your day here on Adobe Live. Bye.
Bye.